Welcome to First and Future Live, a bi-weekly program of the Institute for Emerging Issues at NC State University. My name's Leslie Boney, and I'm the director of the Institute for Emerging Issues. And this is a program about the people and places and programs and priorities that are shaping the state of North Carolina. Every other week, we look at these key issues that are facing the state, and we talk with the people who are helping to figure them out. Today is the third in a four-part series that we're doing, looking at the historically Black colleges and universities of North Carolina. We started off with a conversation with Dr. Harold Martin, the chancellor of the largest HBCU in North Carolina and in the country, North Carolina A&T State University. A couple of weeks ago, we talked with two of the presidents of the most historically Black colleges and universities in the state, Shaw University and Bennett College, both private. This week, we're talking with Dr. Karrie Dixon, the chancellor of Elizabeth City State University. And in a couple of weeks, we'll be looking at North Carolina Central University and Chancellor Johnson Akinleye. So that's the series. In all cases, we're looking at the past and the present and the future of these critical universities. North Carolina has more HBCUs and more HBCU students than any other state in the country, and they range all across North Carolina. We have a map that'll show you where they are. It goes from Johnson C. Smith in Charlotte. If you head up I-85, you'll pass Livingstone College. There's a cluster of historically Black colleges and universities in Winston-Salem and Greensboro, another cluster in the Triangle, down in southeastern North Carolina, Fayetteville State University, and Elizabeth City State University in northeastern North Carolina. And that's where our focus is today, is looking at Elizabeth City State University. We'd like to thank you for joining us. If you're watching the program on Facebook Live or YouTube, you can ask us questions through the chat, and we'll get to as many as possible. We ask that you tell your friends what it is that you're watching, and whether they are fans of aviation or northeastern North Carolina or southeastern Virginia, or they are graduates of Elizabeth City State, or they are fans of historically Black colleges and universities in the state. This is a show that is going to really get into a little bit of depth on each of those things. If you're watching a recording, we'll have it available both by video and audio. You can just pass it along to someone else. So we are honored today to have with us Dr. Karrie Dixon, who's the chancellor of Elizabeth City State University. A little bit later, we're also going to hear from Dr. Kuldeep Rawat, who's the dean of the School of Science, Aviation, Health, and Technology. Dr. Dixon, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So I know just in the minutes leading up to this show, you were on the phone almost constantly. Elizabeth City is very much in the news right now because of the shooting last week of Andrew Brown Jr., who was shot and killed by sheriff's deputies. Since then, 3 sheriff's deputies have resigned, 7 have been suspended. There's an investigation underway. It's a fraught time in Elizabeth City right now. You are the chancellor of a very visible university there. How are you talking about that with your students and faculty and staff, and how are you talking about it as a member, a really important member of the Elizabeth City community?
Well, thank you, Leslie, for that question. First, I want to express my condolences again to the Brown family and everyone who has been impacted by these tragic events that occurred here in Elizabeth City last Wednesday. This is a very difficult time. It's a very difficult time for the entire community. Soon after I learned of the incident that occurred last Wednesday at 8:30 a.m., I immediately pulled my cabinet together, and we wanted to do all we could to support our students through understanding exactly what was happening around them. And so we scheduled a time of reflection at about 5 o'clock that same day, had students come together, and I spoke to them about the realities of what we're seeing. And the most critical piece of that is, we've been seeing these things happen across our country. But to see it happen within 24 hours of the verdict that was brought down in regards to George Floyd, it just really had people in an emotional state that we needed to acknowledge our students in what they were feeling. And so bringing them together, I told the students at that time that it's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to cry if you are, impacted by what is happening. And it's different when you watch it on TV compared to when it's right here in your backyard. And the situation that played out leading to the death of Andrew Brown actually is only 3 minutes away from our campus. So it was very close in proximity. And, our students and our entire community are feeling, the sadness around the injustices that we are experiencing across our country and even here locally. And, we have band together. I'm working with the presidents of the other higher education institutions here in Elizabeth City, as well as our K-12 partners. We are making decisions strategically around keeping our community safe during this time. One thing I can say that I'm very proud of is the fact that our law enforcement, led by our city police, ECPD, have allowed protesters and supported protesters throughout the city. And so far, all protests have been peaceful. It's been peaceful, I believe, because people, this is their home. So they're not trying to destroy where they live, but they do want to exercise their First Amendment right, freedom of speech. And with what occurred, we even encourage our students to, it's okay to protest, but protest peacefully and be aware of your surroundings, because not everyone who is going to take part in this is from right here in the city. But, I encourage and have always encouraged our students to be advocates for what they believe and what they know is their truth, and what they're seeing across the country, what they're seeing right here in their backyard. They need that outlet, and they need it. And we've been over a week now successful in those peaceful protests that people are participating in, and that we have participated in here in Elizabeth City. So we have a lot and a long way to go, but we definitely stand with the community, and we want to see justice served. And, so I appreciate you asking that question, because I know Elizabeth City has definitely made its mark on the national stage due to some of the things that have come out in regards to the tragic death of Andrew Brown. And again, I just say to the family of Andrew Brown that we are with you, supportive, and we express our condolences and know that this is a very difficult time, and you will always be in our prayers.
Every university on some level has to make a decision about this, what some people call a town gown relationship. You want to be supportive, you want your students to be in a safe place, but you also want them to know that they are part of a larger world. And I know this has been a long-term debate for Elizabeth City State as well, this town gown relationship. We at the Institute for Emerging Issues worked with a group there for a couple of years that was trying to perfect that relationship between the university and the community. How has that been playing out for you since you've been there, this effort to be apart from the city, a safe place for your students, but also a part of the community?
Well, it's definitely moved in a positive direction. And I know some of the history of it being somewhat of a tense relationship over the years between the university and the city. And one thing that I wanted to really focus on is bringing the community to the university. And that narrative that I've been using, even when I meet with groups here in Elizabeth City, is, hey, you should be proud of this institution. Elizabeth City State is a senior institution, a constituent institution of the University of North Carolina. And this is something you should wear proudly on your chest to say, hey, we have this wonderful university right here in our community. And it's providing a quality education and an affordable price to citizens in our state as well as beyond. And so that's been my narrative and my conversation piece from the start. We've seen things turn in regards to that relationship in a positive way. And so bringing people, you see more people on our campus that you typically wouldn't see. I hear in the community, people taking pride in how the campus looks. We put forth a lot of beautification efforts on campus, and just seeing and hearing in the community people say, "Oh wow, the campus looks great." Yeah, it looks great. It's here. It's we're moving towards building the foundation for the sustainability of ECSU for the future and future generations. And I want everyone to take part in that, because at the end of the day, the university is the communities and the community is the universities. And we have to work together and make sure that we are all moving in the same direction and being supportive of each other.
It's a huge, deep, and rich history. I think this is your 130th anniversary, founded in 1891 by an African-American legislator originally as a teachers college, like a lot of universities were founded, and then a 2-year college, then a 4-year college, then a university, then part of the university system, the UNC system in the early 70s, and now full-blown university, 30 majors, just huge amount of growth over time. When you talk to alums, I read somewhere 20,000 alums, all of whom I'm sure share their opinions with you. What is it that they believe is most important about Elizabeth City State? What do they say? Oh my gosh, you've got to hold on to this thing. What is it that they see as really special about ECSU?
Well, I have to say the ECSU alums are an amazing group of people. And when I tell you they love their university, they absolutely love ECSU. And just seeing that energy and momentum that the alumni bring to the direction that the university is going, just really is icing on the cake, because this university transforms lives and everyone has a story. And as I speak to alumni, it just makes me feel good to hear the experiences they had here at ECSU. And I want to make sure that our current students have some of those same experiences and that same sense of pride as a graduate of Elizabeth City State University. But one thing I would say that they, definitely hone in on is tradition. We have a tradition or future traditions here at Elizabeth City State that alumni are quite proud of. I think you probably heard us. We say Viking Pride, and we say Viking Pride 3 times, and now we have the B that we do for Viking Pride. And so there's some other things that we have. We have Viking Fest on campus, where alums come back, and homecoming, which is a big deal for our alums and our community as well. And, just taking pride in our academic programs, as you mentioned. We were founded as a teachers college, so we produce a significant number of alums who've gone off to be teachers and teachers of the year and all kinds of awards in our 21 county service area, as well as across the state and even outside of the state. And so we take great pride in our education and teacher development here at ECSU. And we also take great pride in our signature aviation program that I know we'll talk about a little later. But those are things that alumni have really, spread the word and taken pride in, the historic concept of who we are as an institution and serving the people of Northeastern North Carolina, the citizens of North Carolina, is something that Elizabeth City State has years of history around being able to do and produce amazing alumni.
You started off your career at NC State, and that's something NC State is obviously very proud of. Moved on to the UNC system, where you became a vice president for the entire system, looking at student affairs. And at some point, we're asked to go down to Elizabeth City State and take a look, eventually to serve as interim chancellor. And then you got the opportunity to be chancellor. And I'm wondering what it was you saw. You've talked about some of it, I guess, probably the alumni enthusiasm, but what was it you saw in Elizabeth City State at a time when, on some level, the university was struggling that made you think, oh my gosh, this is a great place to go?
So I'll have to tell you, Leslie, looking at Elizabeth City State over the years from my lens in Chapel Hill, I never understood as I reflect what I know now, because it's easy to look from a distance, but when you become a part of the community, your perspective changes. And so I've worked with Elizabeth City State over the years as in my position, as you referenced, Vice President of Academic and Student Affairs at the UNC System Office. But once I was asked to come to Elizabeth City State to work with the campus through some challenges that it was facing, being on the ground, getting to know the people, understanding how critical this institution is for Northeastern North Carolina and the entire region, that really brought perspective that I don't think I had before. Because when you look at the economic impact of ECSU, that ECSU has in this area, when you look at the fact that and you showed the map, that we're pretty much out here on an island by ourselves, as what people would say, but we're in rural North Carolina, and we're proud to be in rural North Carolina because we know that we're making an impact here for the people here, the 21 counties that we serve, that are tier 1, tier 2 counties, that we're being able to offer access to education and a quality education at an affordable price. All that means something. It means, and really defines the importance of this university and why it needs to be stable, why it needs to be here for years to come and generations to come, and the impact that it's had on people in transforming lives. And so, I'm quite proud to lead ECSU. I was happy to go through a national search process and be the one chosen to lead this campus. It's year 3 for me. Time has flown by, but we've been able to accomplish a lot within that short period of time, more than anyone would have ever expected. And we still have more to do. And the mindset we have is continuous improvement here. And we want to continue to do all we can to sustain this university for the future.
I want to show a sort of remarkable slide that shows what continuous improvement looks like and also depicts some of the challenges that you came in facing.
Yes.
And it's just a chart showing enrollment growth over about a 10-year period. And we see a decline over a number of years. And then around 2017 or so, the beginnings of an uptick starts. And we've put that in Viking blue, sort of showing this thing. And in many ways, the growth curve looks like a Nike swoosh, or maybe you could call it a Viking swoosh. So there were some things that the Board of Governors did. It basically, had to make a decision. Is this a place that we think can continue to function? And they said yes. And then there was this idea of NC Promise that I want you to talk about. And then you came in a couple of years ago, 3 years ago. And so you're beginning to see those enrollment numbers reflected. And since you've been there, enrollment's increased by 40%. So
yes,
huge amount of things going on. The decision by the Board of Governors to invest, the NC Promise, then your arrival. How do you think those different factors have conspired to show that growth curve that we just showed?
So actually, I was very happy to see that slide that you just showed, because I actually started here in July of 2017 as part of a work group to move ECSU in new directions, is what it was titled. And working with the former Chancellor, Thomas Conway, who we all love so dearly, and he recently transitioned, passed away, and is missed greatly, and also an NC State a person who contributed to NC State for many years. And so when I started in 17 is when we started to approach our admission strategy and our recruitment strategy a little differently. NC Promise actually came in effect the next year. And the next year, it was 2018 is when it was the first cycle of NC Promise. And that's actually when I became interim chancellor. And so we put in place some strategies around NC Promise on the marketing side. And we wanted to spread the word as broadly as we could. I want to thank the North Carolina General Assembly for even coming up with such a concept, a model, NC Promise, for reducing tuition. But the reality at that time was no one knew if this was going to work, if this was a good idea, if it was a bad idea, if people would perceive it as though they're getting less, is what some of the rhetoric was around the $500 tuition. But after that first year, Leslie, our admissions numbers, I mean, we grew almost 20% in the first year of NC Promise alone. And looking at that and really leveraging our marketing, leveraging our partnerships with community colleges, building those relationships, helping people understand that they are going to receive a quality education at an affordable price. What more can you ask for? And so ever since then, people have been really receptive to taking advantage of this program. And it's being offered as, of course, at Elizabeth C. State University, UNC Pembroke, and Western Carolina. And so we were very fortunate. We're the only HBCU among the three. And so as students are choosing and looking at options, parents are really looking at the affordability piece. And even now in a pandemic, we grew 13%. And so people are looking at ECSU as not their third or fourth choice anymore. They're looking at ECSU as their first or second choice. And this is big for us because we are seeing an increase in the academic profile of our students. Every year, our academic profile is growing or increasing, just as our student population continues to grow. But one thing that I'm very proud of is the students who stay. Because we can bring in a lot of students on the front end, and some colleges are really looking at attrition and how we're losing them after the first year. Our students are staying. We actually saw a 5% increase in our retention rate. You don't see that type of increase on a college campus for retention. And so to see that is something that I'm very proud of as well. So the recruitment strategy, NC Promise, has definitely helped us a lot. People are recognizing ECSU, recognizing the quality education at an affordable price. And our students are staying, our current students, they're staying to graduation. And that's what I want to see as well. And so I'm excited about where we are. I'm excited about what NC Promise has allowed us to do in order to make education accessible, especially in where we're located, surrounded by 21 Tier 1, Tier 2 counties, some of the most economically distressed counties in North Carolina. So I'm quite proud to serve this region and to do so in a way that people see higher education as a reality because of this tuition reduction program that we have in place.
We showed a little bit about NC Promise, but in addition to the $500 per semester for in-state students, it also offers the $2,500 semester attraction for out-of-state students. And all of the NC Promise schools are pretty close to borders of other states. And southeastern Virginia is a prime market for ECSU. Last week, the Board of Governors approved a measure that would allow you to go from what's now a cap of no more than 18% out-of-state students to up to 25%. And I'm wondering how you do that. So ECSU has historically and is still historically majority African-American, about 3/4 of your students. A lot of folks in southeastern Virginia may not fit that demographic profile. What's the right mix of students as you continue to grow? And what does that look like demographically if you're going to maintain your heritage as a historically Black college and university?
Well, one thing I can say is that we are a historically Black college, and HBCU is a federal designation that will not be taken away, because historically that's how we were founded, no matter what the demographics look like going forward. And when we look at our makeup of our student body, it is becoming more diverse. That's a good thing. We are pulling in more students from various areas, specifically Virginia. As you mentioned, we are a border campus, and we're 30 minutes from Chesapeake and 45 minutes from Virginia Beach and the Outer Banks. So we always say, if you come to ECSU, you can have your feet in the ocean and the water in 45 minutes or less. And so, we take advantage of that from the standpoint of our marketing and our branding, and it is attracting people within the state and within some of the border states. We're seeing more of an uptick. We did go to the Board of Governors to request an increase in the out-of-state cap because ECSU is growing back into our campus. As you looked at the enrollment numbers, we have experienced a significant decline a few years ago. So we're growing back into a campus that used to be 3,500 or so students. And so we have some room to bring more students in. We have the capacity. It does not mean that we are giving seats that are North Carolinian seats to out-of-state students. That's not an issue for us because we are accepting every North Carolina student that meets the minimum admissions requirements or greater. And so it's not an issue of giving up seats of North Carolina citizens. We have room to grow because we are growing back into our campus. And so this support that we received from the UNC Board of Governors to increase the cap from 18% to 25% is just going to help us even more. It's going to help us continue to grow as a campus. It's going to help us continue to diversify our population of students as well as our academic profile of students. And so it's a win-win for us. And I'm glad the UNC Board of Governors was supportive of this request because it's definitely going to make a difference for ECSU. And also what we've seen in system data is that when students come from out of state, they're likely to stay here. And so having our students coming from Virginia or other states that surround or close proximity to ECSU, a lot of them stay here in North Carolina and contribute to the economy. And so those are good things. Those are win-win opportunities for the university and the state of North Carolina.
Let me show one more slide, and I invite your questions. If you have questions, please submit them, and we'll get to as many as possible for Dr. Dixon or our upcoming guest, Dr. Rawat. But I just wanted to show a quick slide that just gives an overview of how you're doing that balance between quality and growth. And we've talked about some of these things before, but one of the top quartile of HBCUs in the country, top 10 public regional college in the South. And I want to just hit this next thing, the top performer in social mobility, because one of the things that obviously higher education is about is taking someone from where they are and moving them to a different place. And that can be expanding their horizons and their perspective, but it also can move them up economically. And a lot of your students are first generation college students. What is it that you do that you think causes, connections for a student who comes to you so that when they emerge, they end up doing something that is going to result in higher income, maybe than the family that they came from?
Definitely. So one thing that I have to correct, Leslie, on your slide is we were founded in 1891.
Okay.
So 1891, we did celebrate, as you mentioned, 130 years this year. So we have a long history and legacy, here at ECSU. And the social mobility piece, is very critical to us. And those rankings definitely show how important it is in the role that we play in transforming lives. And as I mentioned, being surrounded by tier 1, tier 2 counties, some of the most economically distressed counties in North Carolina, a lot of our students come from these counties, and we are here to provide that opportunity to them. And yes, they're first generation, and yes, we're in rural North Carolina, and so anything that we can do to provide the support, the nurturing family environment. We're a small institution, the smallest of the HBCUs in the UNC system. And so we're allowed to do some of those things we know who our students are, we know what some of their challenges are. And so we're there to help shape and guide them along this journey of higher education. And so in doing that, we take great pride because we hear those stories. As I mentioned, everybody has a story. And our students share those stories that they have from where they started and where they end when they graduate from ECSU. And so our tagline is come to discover your passions and leave to conquer your dreams. And so that really, in a nutshell, sums up the transformative opportunities of people who come through ECSU and gain their education here. And we take great pride in that. So I'm really happy to say that social mobility piece, and we can see the impact of that just by the careers and the professions that our alumni are going off and seeking and being successful in. And so we're able to measure that by the success of our alumni and where they are when they graduate. And so we're quite proud to be able to contribute to changing lives, transforming lives, giving opportunities, and supporting our students when they graduate to go out and fulfill their dreams and their goals within their careers and professions. So that's something that we're really happy about.
Well, I think you're a key part of that as you look at the different honors that you've received since you've been there. You've been named one of the 10 most dominant HBCU leaders of 2020 by the HBCU Campaign Fund. You won the Old North State Award for outstanding service to North Carolina. And since you were there, and on some level out of the blue, somebody was paying attention. And somebody in Mackenzie Scott's organization said, I like what's happening there. And out of the royal blue came a $15 million gift from Mackenzie Scott. What are you going to do with that money?
Well, I'll tell you, Leslie, it was the best day and the best phone call I could have ever received. And I actually thought when I received the call, I thought, this can't be true, and so I'm very grateful. We are very grateful for Mackenzie Scott and the gift that she provided us, a $15 million unrestricted gift to help us carry forth the vision of ECSU. And, as she said on her blog, she was looking at leadership across higher education. She was looking at leadership teams. She was looking at direction and strategy and strategic plans of moving the university forward. And so I was just quite honored that she recognized the work that the small institution in rural North Carolina, HBCU, Elizabeth C. State University, and what we were doing. And, it just felt really good because, as you mentioned, you never know who's watching. And one thing that is really important to me is a strong work ethic and that leadership matters. And you never know who's watching. You never know who's picking up on the things that are happening. And she's a great example of that. And so I'm so happy that came to fruition for us. And so what we plan to do with the $15 million is we are using that money to put ourselves in good position, good financial footing for us here at the university, adding to our endowment, investing long-term. And because we need that cash flow, we need that financial security here, that we've never received a gift like this before. This is the largest individual gift we have ever received in 130 years, the history of the university. And so we're going to be very intentional, very strategic about usage of those funds. And I would say about 80% of it is going to go towards our long-term investment for the financial stability of the university. And then we're going to use some of it on campus to add to faculty development, faculty labs and other things that they want to do, the student experience, staff development. We have a number of things that we want to do to enhance the experience of our faculty, staff, and students here at ECSU. But more importantly, we want to use those funds to start building our financial stability for the future of ECSU. And this has given us a great jump start to doing that. And so we're quite grateful for this gift.
You mentioned your leadership team, and wanted to bring on one of the members of your leadership team, the Dean of your College of Science, Aviation, Health, and Technology, Dr. Kuldeep Rawat, who is the leader of one of the things that ECSU points to as a signature program. And I'm talking about the aviation program, just incredible growth in that program over the past few years. I was telling Dr. Rawat before the show that the fleet has grown from what I knew as a two vehicle fleet to 12 different aircraft. You've got 6 different simulators there, and
Yes.
somebody wants to be part of the aviation program. You also have a new agreement with United Airlines that enables you to train pilots. You've got a special agreement that recognizes the quality of your training so that someone could get up in the air quicker. Can you talk about the importance of the aviation program, Dr. Rawat, and what you're hoping to do with it in the future?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Leslie, for having me on this webinar today. And yeah, so first, let me just give you a brief history of where we were and how far we have come when it comes to aviation education at ECSU. Our history dates back to 1989. That's when ECSU actually started offering aviation education in form of a minor, airway science minor. And then fast forward 2002, we became a bachelor's degree, 4-year degree program. Then around 2007, 2008, we added our flight training component to that program. But in the last 3 years, Chancellor mentioned about, a lot of things happened. The NC promise was there. There was a committee set up to look into investing with ECSU, and especially aviation science programs. So we were beneficiary of that investment in 2017, 2018, which now took our fleet from just 2 airplanes to 12. We have doubled our enrollment. Our enrollment in academic year 2018 was 68. We are now over 130 students. We have also increased our lab capacity. We have added new labs. We upgraded our air traffic control facility. You mentioned about flight simulators. Again, we started with 1 simulator. Now we have 6 simulators. And we also added very recently a lab for unmanned aircraft systems. So we are very proud of our achievements here. And you mentioned about partnership with United Airlines. That's going to be huge for our students. United Airlines, like any other major US airline, is looking to diversify their workforce. And they reached out to ECSU to partner to accomplish that goal. They're looking to hire around 5,000 pilots. And they have announced that half of that will be people of color or women. And we will be a big part of that goal to work with United Airlines. We also received what we call as a reduced airline transport pilot authorization from the FAA. And that now allows ECSU graduate to actually become airline pilot as a first officer when they achieve 1,000 hours of flight compared to 1,500 hours. So that's a 500 hours saving for our students when they graduate from our program.
One of the charges from the UNC Board of Governors as ECSU has been engaged in this turnaround is as part of the strategic plan of the UNC system to increase critical workforce jobs. So making sure that you're continuing to increase those jobs that have growth potential in the future and that are going to lift up the region of northeastern North Carolina going forward. Certainly aviation appears to be one of those growth areas. Some of the other charges you have are in science, health, and technology. What are you doing in those areas that you think is going to be important in terms of meeting those critical workforce goals?
Yeah, so in the area of health, just in 2019, we also brought all the health-related and programs together under one department. So we have a Department of Health and Human Studies that brings pharmaceutical science. So we focus on preparing students to get into a pharmacy workforce. We're also looking into preparing students to help in the society in form of social workers. Social work is also again a big thing. We saw that during the pandemic, what significance of social work in the society. We're also looking at our kinesiology program that focus on health and well-being. So we're preparing students in that area as well. And then in addition to that, we're also preparing students to be in the field of psychology. That's again is part of our health and human studies. So these are the 4 areas that specifically focus on meeting that health or human related workforce in Northeastern North Carolina.
Have you been able to get Chancellor Dixon to enroll in any of your drone technology training programs? Is that something that she's become expert on, or is that one of your plans to slowly certify her as a drone operator?
Well, we have tried Chancellor to get certified on a flight simulator. I know she had experience of our flight simulators many times. She has also been our airplane, but have not taken a flight yet. But hopefully this summer we can get her to do that during one of our summer programs. We have planned for chancellors to get her in the air. But she has been a big part of the growth. As I said, started in 2018 when she came on board as interim chancellor and then a full-time chancellor. And as you can see, our growth mimics the growth of the university. As I said, the enrollment doubled in the program, and you showed that nice bar graph there from 2018 to now, how our enrollment has increased. And as the aviation science program was the real, a big beneficiary of that growth as well. And, we have to thank our chancellor for that, because she was ready to implement our vision. She was, she provided all the support to us, because think about it, 2 airplanes, now 12 airplanes. Somebody was able to get money for that. And, and that was Chancellor Dixon.
Chancellor, how do you determine which programs you grow and which ones you don't? Obviously, there's huge momentum behind the aviation program and some of the other programs that Dr. Rawat mentioned. How do you make decisions about where everything as a chancellor is a decision. You have to decide, I'm going to pay more attention to this. I'm going to pay less attention to this. How do you find which degree programs you grow?
So I have to start, Leslie, by saying Dr. Rawat was very nice in explaining my experience with drones and the flight simulators. The first time I got into the flight simulator, I think I hit every tree as I was landing my airplane. And so I don't really have a good track record. So he was very nice in how he described that. But you're right. Every day I'm making decisions about the direction of the university and our academic programs, working with our provost, Dr. Farrah Ward. And so when I started at ECSU, this was around the time where there was a lot of rhetoric out there about the relevance of HBCUs. And there were so many panels and forums because HBCUs were being questioned left and right about their relevancy in North Carolina and in this time. And so I sat down and I said, if we were to be known for something, what would that be? What makes us unique? What makes us different? What is our niche? And we looked at other schools. I would name a school and my cabinet would say, oh, they're known for this. And I would name another school. They're like, oh, they're known for this. And I said, well, what are we known for? And so, we take pride in the fact that we were founded as a normal school teachers college, and that we have produced many teachers, and education continues to be a premier degree program at ECSU. But our signature program had to be something that made us different, that was going to be our niche. And when I learned more and more in talking to Dr. Rawat about our aviation program, the light bulb went off. I said, this is it. This is what makes us different. We are the only program in North Carolina, 4-year degree program in North Carolina right now offering aviation science. We have to leverage this. And Dr. Rawat, I think it was like music to his ears to hear that. But I was committed to going public that this is our signature program. And to my surprise, even in our state alone, there were a lot of people who had no idea that we had aviation science. There were people in our community that did not know. There were people who are colleagues of mine who did not know. And so once I started talking about it, getting Dr. Rawat out there on the national stage, on the local stage, people, and becoming more visible, people are now realizing the quality program we have here at ECSU is our signature aviation program. And that's why his phone is ringing off the hook. That's why we have such a demand, and the numbers are growing so quickly over in the aviation area. And a lot of it also has to do with price point. No one can compete with us right now with the quality education that you will receive if at ECSU in general, but then as an aviation major, there's no one even close to competing with us as far as the investment you would have to make to become qualified to be a pilot or to be in air traffic control or avionics or to be in unmanned aircraft systems, also known as drones. So we have an exciting jewel here. And I tell every time I see a legislator, every time I see people in the community, I said, we have a jewel in northeastern North Carolina at Elizabeth City State University, and that is this aviation program. And United Airlines came to us and said, we want to partner. That's huge for ECSU. So I'm quite proud of how we've been able to become more visible, tell our story, and people are responding.
One of the real attractions you have, I think, is that as an HBCU, and as an HBCU that's figured out a way to do high quality programming at an affordable price, you offer airlines that traditionally have not been very diverse a chance to really significantly expand the diversity of their pilot corps or the air traffic control corps in a way that it hasn't historically been able to be as diverse. And it's because you figured out a way to crack the code on the training by offering lower cost training that's still high quality. I think you're able to offer something that's going to be really attractive to the airline industry.
Yeah. So when it comes to the training, we all have to follow the FAA guidelines. So the training is we follow the FAA curriculum. The curriculum is approved by the FAA, and our cost is really the decider. If somebody wants to choose an aviation school and want to get into becoming a professional pilot, cost does become a factor. We have NC Promise. We are good on the tuition side. Now the flight training cost at ECSU, as Chancellor said, we are actually half of what somebody would pay at any other flight training university. So that really becomes a deciding factor for students to come to ECSU because they're still following the same guidelines that FAA has set out for training. So we meet all the training standards. And on top of that, if somebody can come here and get their entire flight training cost less than $30,000 when the national average is over $60,000, this really is a win-win for the student. And then we have this partnership where they know that at the end of their program, they have a way to get to an airline. So all these things put together is really making our program now, it's going to take us to a new level going forward.
Also mentioned a couple of times the unmanned aviation systems or drone degree. You can actually get a degree from Elizabeth City State that certifies you as a drone operator, a bachelor's degree. Can you talk about that?
Yes. So in 2019, we know that we have a long history of aviation. So we wanted to capitalize on that and start looking into emerging fields. And we know the drones were really becoming very popular. So in 2019, we launched our bachelor's degree. It's a 4-year degree program in unmanned aircraft systems, where we can now train students to become UAV, unmanned aircraft vehicle pilots. We can train them to become system integrators, even image analysts, and into various applications, civilian applications. We are focusing on how to use drones in improving crop health, or how to use drones in inspecting large infrastructure. As you know, Elizabeth City has a lot of renewable energy infrastructure. We have solar farms, we have wind turbines, and these infrastructure need to be inspected. and drones are finding common use in these areas. We also have miles and miles of coastline here that need to be monitored. Again, drones are becoming very important. Hurricanes, we are hit by hurricanes, and drones are now being used to be that eye in the sky and help in the disaster response. So we are now teaching students how these drones could be used in different applications, but they have to learn about the technology, they have to learn about the regulations. Even we teach them how to even build a customized drone. Not every drone can be off the shelf, and you can't just start using it for application. We're also looking into future. So we are also investing into delivery drones, and that is going to become part of our curriculum as well.
Dr. Rawat, congratulations on the growth of that program. Let me close with a question for Dr. Dixon, and it's a strange one because we haven't really talked about it so far in this series, but that is the importance of marching bands. And as part of the research of this, I noticed that the Viking marching band, the Sound of Class, had been recognized as the best marching band in the country in Division II in 2020 by ESPN. With all the other successes we've been talking about, Dr. Dixon, what is the importance of the marching band at Elizabeth City State University?
Well, Leslie, we are so proud. Our marching band is called the Sound of Class, and they are a group of amazing students. And I have to give credit to our faculty who work with them and our band director, Julia Boykins, and her team. They're committed to, I can sit in my office on campus and I hear the band out there practicing and going around the campus every day, just practicing. And then individual players, individual instruments as they are in smaller groups practicing. And so we take great pride in our band, and culturally as part of HBCUs, you'll see that is something that we all have in common, that people, our fans, really want to come out and see the band perform. And so I'm really happy about what I'm seeing with the growth of our band. We're growing in number. We're also, the recognitions, these type of rankings just definitely helps with our recruitment and our process for selecting students to participate in the band, and scholarship dollars and other things that we're seeing. And I'm very happy to say the Sound of Class will have new band uniforms for fall football season. So that's something else exciting. We had a fundraising campaign to raise funds for that, and I was able to match those funds that they raised on their own so that they could get these new band uniforms. So the Sound of Class will be looking great come football season in the fall. So I'm really excited about these rankings, and I'm excited and very happy about the success that our students see and how hard work does pay off.
As you look to the future, where do you see Elizabeth City State in 5 years, and what's it going to take to get there?
So a really good question. And I'm glad we're ending with this, because from the start of the time that I started here at ECSU, I've been committed to building a foundation for a sustainable future for this great institution. And in July of 2020, working with our board of trustees and our stakeholders, our community, our alumni, our faculty, our staff, our students, we put together a strategic plan, very intentional strategic plan. We got outside consultants to come in with an unbiased eye to give us some guidance on how to put this roadmap together for the future of ECSU. And so we launched our 5-year strategic plan in July of 2020. We titled it Forging Our Future, and it's from 2020 to 2025. And this plan, as I mentioned, was just very intentional as we developed a vision for a collective future and the impact that ECSU will make in this region. And so our high quality academic programs, aligning those with community demands, meeting employer needs, enhancing our region and our state, and driving our economic development, all things that are so critical to us that you'll see in this plan And it just guarantees the future success and sustainability of ECSU. And that's what I really want to see. And during these challenging times, Leslie, I have to say it is so important to remember that education will always be an investment, should always be an investment in our future. And education changes lives. We've talked about social mobility and transforming lives. And at ECSU, we are passionate about changing lives of our students across the state of North Carolina and beyond. So access to this quality education at an affordable price, it changes lives, and it changes education can change a whole society. And so we take pride in the impact that we have here in this region, as well as across the state and beyond. And I just see that continuing over the next 5 years as we follow our roadmap and we build this university up and build it for the future and future generations.
Dr. Karrie Dixon, Chancellor of Elizabeth City State University, thank you for being with us. Dean Kuldeep Rawat, thank you for being with us today. Really appreciate your time and the work that you're doing to help people discover their passions and uncover their dreams.
Yes.
That is our show for today. Thank you for joining us. First in Future is produced by James Herrick. Leadership in this series comes from our communications director, Greg Hedgepath. Kirsten Chang helps get the word out about the show and keeps the chat going. Renee Potts helps with our slides. We had research help this week from Simone Coleman. Thank you to all of you for joining us. If you enjoyed the show, we hope you'll look for the posting of the video version and then the podcast version that will come out in a couple of days. And please tell a friend. We hope that you'll join us for the final part of our 4-part series on HBCUs coming up 2 weeks from today, May 11th at 9 a.m. We're going to be joined at that time by Dr. Johnson Akinlea, the Chancellor of North Carolina Central University. For all of us at NC State's Institute for Emerging Issues, we really appreciate your being with us. I'm Leslie Boney. See you in the future.